JSheetz Outline.
The Rotring Isograph. What are some of the pros and cons of drawing with these pens? You've probably seen this pen in a lot of my videos, which I draw with the most often, the .35 Rotring Isograph technical pen. My absolute favorite so far because of the tiny little details that I can create. So let's talk about some of the bad things about this pen first. One of the bad things about this pen is that the nib of this pen is very fragile. Not so fragile in that they're going to wear out, but fragile in the sense that you have to draw with these pens carefully. You can't just push on the paper really hard when you're drawing, and you can't draw on very rough surfaces with this pen. Another thing about this pen is that up front, they're very expensive when you first buy these. You can buy these in a set for much cheaper than what you can get buying these individually, but that is another expensive thing. Another expense is the ink. The ink can be very expensive up front. Another thing that can be a con about these pens is that they require a lot of maintenance and upkeep. You have to make sure that the nib does not get bent. You have to make sure that you're using proper cleaning solution to clean the pen. You have to clean the pen very often. You have to make sure that you're drawing on paper and surfaces that are not too rough so you don't damage the nib. You also have to make sure that you don't leave the pen setting with ink in it for too long without drawing with it, because the ink on the inside of it can dry up, and then you will have a very hard time trying to keep this pen clean or cleaning it out. And then there is also the fact that when you're drawing with this pen, you have to hold it more upright. You can't hold this pen at an extreme angle like this or like that, because if you press down, that's going to cause the tip of the pen to bend. And as you can see here, there is the reservoir. Then you've got, there is a small metal wire that is in the inside of this here. Actually, it's inside of that. And that goes up into here. Now that small wire is pushes up and down and allows the ink to flow into the pen and then through the tip of the pen. So if you have a pen that has dried up ink in it, or if the pen has maybe tiny paper particles at the end of it because you're drawing on rough paper, then the pen isn't going to work. Another one could possibly be leaking. Now if your pen might be a manufacturing defect to it, or maybe you're drawing with it improperly, such as pushing really hard on the paper, or not cleaning the pen properly, or making the mistake of cleaning the pen with the wrong solutions to get the ink out, then you could have leaking because the plastic could be worn away, and so the seal that holds this together could then cause the ink to flow out. Now this here, if I was to twist this off, that little piece here, the brown piece, then the ink is going to start flowing out of it. So you've got the reservoir, you've got this here, you've got the little cap, you've got the nib and the wire inside. Now if I twist this off, ink is going to go everywhere. Same if I was to take the reservoir off. So what are some other things that can be cons about this pen? Another one could be the fact that when you're drawing with these, you want to make sure that you don't accidentally knock the pen off the table. As I said, the nib on these are a lot more fragile than the nibs on other pens. And so one thing you could do, which is convenient, is that being that the cap of this pen does have a little clip on it, you can always make sure that you put the cap back on so that when you lay the pen on the table, it's not able to, it can't roll. Or another thing you could do, although I always draw without the cap posted at the end of it, is that you could draw with the cap posted at the end so that it can't draw, like when you're drawing, you set it down, it can't fall off the table. But if you do knock the pen off, even though this is on the end of it, this tip can still fall off, hit the ground, and be damaged. So whenever I'm drawing, just for safety, I always put the cap back on it. Even if I go away for maybe just a minute, I put the cap back on gently. Make sure you don't twist the cap on too tight. And then I just set it down. And then if something happens where it gets knocked off, I don't have to worry about the nib being bent, because if everything else in the pen is working, but the nib is not going to work. Whereas if the nib is working, you can have other issues with the pen that can be fixed. So the nib is always the most important, I think, personally, of this pen. So let's talk about some of the good things, because we did talk about a lot of bad things about the pen. And so some good things about them. There's actually a lot of good things that I honestly think far outweigh the cons of these pens. Number one, they all come with, as you can see here, a small number that detects, tells you what the size of the pen is. So if you go to pick up the pen, you know what size it is. And maybe you're somebody that doesn't have very good eyesight, although if you're drawing, you probably want glasses on. But let's say you don't have very good eyesight and you reach over to grab a pen, but you don't see the number. Well, these are even color coordinated so that if you want to draw with one of these, and you can remember that, hey, the 0.18 is red, 0.25 is white, the 0.35 is yellow. So it does make it easier so that, I mean, even for me, I don't have to like turn the pen and look and see what the size they are. I can just look at the color and remember it. Another good thing about these pens, or Pro, is they have the size of the pen on the top. As you can notice on this one, which is the 0.25, it says 0.18 because I had a pen that was a 0.18 and the nib wasn't wanting to work, and it seemed like it was a manufacturing defect because I used the pen for a little bit and it was working, then I didn't use it for a couple months and it was past the time that I was able to return it for a refund. So I just bought a 0.25 nib, put it on the 0.18, and it all works. Because when you put it on there, this whole end here, I'll show you real quick. So you've got your reservoir, and this whole end here is completely being replaced. But I kept the reservoir and the barrel and the cap of this pen. So normally it would have the accurate number and size at the top. For example, on my 0.35, as you can see, it does have the number 0.35, which gives you the number there. And then you've got the number here on the side and the color to make it more convenient. Another good thing about this pen is the clip on it. They have a clip that you can put on your shirt, or maybe you want to clip it to go into your sketchbook. And also the clip is useful for if you set the pen down, you don't have to worry about it rolling away or anything. Another is that the cap of this pen easily posts on the end of it. It's not too heavy, it's not too bulky or in the way. Although personally I draw without the cap on it. I set it to the side and then put the cap on the end whenever I take a break. But that's pretty convenient that it posts on pretty quick. It doesn't fall off, as you can see there. So it stays on pretty good. And another cool thing about this pen is that you can draw extremely detailed drawings with these because of the different nib sizes. They come in so many different sizes that you get to a point to where the nibs are so small in these pens that you're drawing such tiny lines that it's just going to take so long to finish the drawing. And the 0.18 here is another example of a pen size that's so tiny that it gets to the point to where it takes a long time to do a drawing, and that's why sometimes I do drawings in smaller sketchbooks with these, or I use them at the end to do details. Another one would be that these pens can, you can get different colors of ink for them. You can get different colors of inks. You can also get white ink, you can get black ink or blue. So there's the advantage of that. There's also the fact that these are refillable, so it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run when you are wanting to save money on your supplies or art supplies for when you do a lot of drawing. So you don't have to worry about going through so many different pens. The nib on these doesn't wear out as long as you're drawing on a smooth surface. I mean, if you're drawing on a rock or a brick, it's not going to work. So I do recommend drawing on something that is a very smooth surface, which I have covered in another video about what papers to draw on with these pens. Another thing is that the ink flow and the way these draw is just so much different than what I've used with any other pen. Most other pens I draw with, I get a very like dry feeling, where these are kind of real smooth. Unless you start going to a size like the 0.18 here, then things tend to get a bit scratchy feeling. But the 0.35 is a very smooth writing experience, so I can draw with this, get drawings done pretty quick, and not have to do so many lines. But I do like the ability that I can draw something so detailed. And the ink that you can get for these, I've got an off-brand of it, which is a TechnoArt, which I bought online about a year and a half, maybe, actually 2 years ago I bought a bulk amount of it online. But you can also get, most common and most recommended is a Rotring ink for these pens that's refillable. Now the ink for these pens is a very dark ink, so you get a lot of contrast in the paper when you're drawing, and it really makes everything just really pop off the paper, makes it look more detailed and intricate. Whereas other pens that you're drawing with, like maybe a ballpoint or some other technical pen that's the ones that you just draw with and throw away when they're empty, you don't get as much of contrast, and you don't get as detailed of a drawing, I don't think. I just love the look of the ink and the fact that I can draw things so detailed with these pens. And when I'm drawing, I don't have to worry about, do I need to use this pen or this one and all that. I just have one pen that I can use, put ink in it, draw with it. The only drawback, as I said, mainly is actually the maintenance of these. You have to make sure that you're taking care of these really well, but the benefit is that if you take good care of these pens, they're going to help take good care of you by helping you get some very intricate doodles and drawings done. But as of right now, that's all I can think of for some of the pros and cons of these pens. If there's anything else that you can think of, do let me know in the comments below of what you like about these pens and some of the things that you don't like about these pens, such as the pros or cons. But personally, I think these pens are really good for drawing, doing intricate details, and making my abstract doodles and things that I like to create that are very random. But do let me know in the comments what you think of these pens, what you like about them, and what are some things that you don't like about them. And don't forget, if you want to, give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for more content, reviews, and doodles. Until then, have fun drawing out there, and make sure to take good care of your Rotring Isograph so that you can keep making those intricate doodles that we all love making. I'll see you later.